that one belief eliminated from your brain could change the course of your reality. Would you want that? It's not for everyone, only the brave. Those who want to own their life like the powerful leaders they were born to be. A pivotal moment can change everything. Now, here's the host of Crossroads to Awakening show, Wendy Paquette.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Crossroads to Awakening show. I'm your host, Wendy Paquette. I'm a holographic mind reprogrammer. I help women and men stuck at a crossroads awaken to their true selves and change the world from where they stand. Because I believe as a high-frequency human, how you see your life is a direct reflection of all of the programs that are etched into your brain. And they can be easily shifted when you see your truth for what it is. So if you'd like to access your true self, find me on wendypaquette.com or on Facebook at Crossroads to Awakening show. And yeah, jump in. Let's talk about today one of my favorite topics and a new perception that I've got around it is called the bridge of living in 4D. The bridge of living in 4D. And what does that even mean? Now, I'm going to start from this space that I was in not too long ago, which was everyone talks about 3D and getting to 5D and moving to 5D and what that looks like, and everybody wants to get to 5D. And what is that? And, how can I get there? But no one ever talked about 4D. And so, of course, I lived in the space of, well, what's 4D and why is no one talking about it? And is there a 4D? There must be, right? And in math, 3, 4, 5, to me, that made sense. But what actually is it? And so what I've come to learn is, like in the title of this episode, the bridge of living in 4D. So my perception of 3D is that space of duality where you might not own what you're living. We could live in the space of victimhood, or things happen to you, or you're wondering why the world is so crappy. Like, what the hell is going on that we're living in this space of, chaos and crazy and politics and, violence. And yes, that is a curiosity for everyone, even, in other dimensions, so to speak. So what the D stands for in 3D would be 3-dimension or more. But what we know for sure is that living in that space, and we'll call it 3D for lack of better words, is that not everything seems like it's worth living, right? It just doesn't seem like it has a space where we want to spend time in it, because everywhere we look, something crappy is happening. And that is your viewpoint, most people's viewpoint in 3D. Unless you're sitting in a space where maybe you're generating a lot in your reality, maybe money or love or something, and you're happy and satiated in this comfortable little space. You might not be growing too much, but you're, classified as happy in your world. And that's okay too. 3D living in that space is you're happy, you're not really seeing outside of it. Not everything works for you, but some things do, and that causes you to experience joy. And there's something greater, right? There's a level of growth that is a natural evolutionary process on this reality where everything's moving in this universe, in this multiverse. Everything. And science proves it. Everything's moving. So if everything's moving and you can't create energy, nor can you destroy it, it only transforms, then you're consistently transforming into something every moment you're alive. So that is the greatest news possible. And let me tell you, there's degrees of transforming. Because if you're that person who says, my life is great, everything's perfect, everything's working, I'm happy, I'm fine, you're transforming anyway. Based on science, it's proven that you are transforming every moment of your life. Now, you could actually look in the mirror and call that aging, right? Look in the mirror and go, you know what, I'm transforming all right. I'm transforming into something that's older than I was yesterday, which to me is quite funny. And if that's your source of joy, I don't know, we get to have a conversation because I'm sure that's not the only space that you would like to live in your reality, but it is possible. For a lot of people, their transformation can be so slow that age is like the end-all, be-all of transformation, because at some point you were born, you live through your life, and then at some point you die. and you look in the mirror and you've grown in age, right? Your cells have had their own evolutionary process, and that's why they look different every single day, right? Not realizing that potentially you could have some influence on that, whatever that looks like with your body and your health and all those things. But that would require your decision to grow, to transform for maybe faster, for lack of better words, like quicker, or on purpose because you decided so. And so let's get into what 5D looks like. So over the course, let me just describe, over the course of this episode, what we're going to do is we're going to dive deep into the 3D, which is three-dimensional world, the 5D dimensional world, which is more of a multi-dimensional world, and 4D, what I call the bridge. So from now until the end of the show, the conversation is going to be, where are you living in this space? What dimension are you living in this body, in this now? Right, so I kind of described a little bit about what 3D is right from the very get-go. But moving forward, I want you to ask yourself this question. Am I living in 3D, 4D, or 5D? And so as we go through, you'll be able to identify yourself and put a little pin in it so that you can decide whether you're happy where you're at or if you'd like more growth. Now, if you're living in my reality, growth is like an everyday occurrence, something that I want consistently every single day because the experience is fun and blissful and joyful, and sometimes it's crunchy and can be a little bit tedious. But I know that when you go through those uncomfortable spaces, you're really growing. It's like if you were an elastic band and we were stretching you, it never goes back the same, but it certainly has that moment of tension where it feels uncomfortable, like, oh God, it might snap, right? That's what we go through in our realities as spiritual humans, as spiritual beings inside of a human vessel. So I know I've briefly discussed what 3D looks like, and that's a very small version of it because we've all been living there. 5D is the multi-dimensional space of being outside of a sphere of emotions that can result in a reactionary form of living that will cause you to create your life on purpose in a different way. So in the 3D reality, you could be faced with something that causes some anger emotions and make decisions from that emotional, angry space that you wouldn't make if you were in a joyful space, right? So you could lead yourself down a path that's really not that fun because of your emotional response to a situation, right? So that's kind of how 3D looks from that perspective. Everything is somewhat reactionary living where you're a bit of a victim to the circumstance in that whatever occurs for you causes a particular emotion, which then if there's decisions to be made, and there always is, you're going to lean and make a decision that might not be what you'd make if you were joyful, okay? So that's the 3D experience. In the 5D multi-dimensional experience, there are literally no words for emotions because the sphere and the high frequency that you're living in, it doesn't actually feel like emotions. It feels like peace. It feels like love, right? Big love, not segmented, compartmentalized versions of love, but like big, overflowing, gushing love. That's what kind of it feels like. And with an element of peace all the way through. So everything feels super, super lovely. It doesn't mean that life still doesn't happen in front of you and circumstances don't occur because people still get sick or have accidents or things happen that you weren't expecting or planning on. And you still have to manage those situations. The difference being in the 3D reality, you would let an emotion surface and then you make decisions on that circumstance based in those emotional circumstances. In 5D, it's more like of an awareness of what's actually occurring and the insight to see beyond what's possible in order to make your choices from that space, from a higher dimensional space, where you can see, yeah, this doesn't feel so good. That's not a great thing. It's still a sad thing, or it's still an unhappy thing, or it's still what you would perceive as something you didn't really want. But you're not making your decisions based on those reactionary emotions. You're making choices and decisions from those circumstances based on what you know is best in your reality, in your highest integrity, where you can create something greater than what you've experienced so far, right? And that oftentimes affects a lot of other people in the meantime, right? Imagine yourself in 3D having an experience at work where someone causes a massive disruption, if I could speak, disruption in your workplace because there was deception or lies, right? And somehow you got drug into it, and somehow your job got affected because of that experience. You would have a certain level of emotion and blame for that occurrence, which would cause you to react in your workplace in a way that you might not normally react. You would react based on anger and frustration. Maybe you would say things to people that you wouldn't normally say, or you would behave differently. Maybe you wouldn't go into work. Maybe you would be, screw the boss, I'm going to, steal a roll of toilet paper, whatever that looks like. But your reactions are different in 3D. In 5D, it's more, okay, I see this is happening. It's not the greatest thing on the world, and it does occur. I wonder what's underneath all of that and what pain that person must have been in order to react or be deceiving in that way at work. That's unfortunate, and I can see that human, and I can see their pain. And my reaction is this: how can I support the situation going on so that we all get to win? It's like living, a black game. So as I'm moving forward, I'm seeing there's the question in the chat room, I think. It says, so is living in 3D or 5D simply just a choice to choose not let life affect your emotions? So to choose to not let life have the effect of your emotions. Yes, somewhat, right? It's an emotional experience to be in 3D and respond and live from the emotions of those spaces. In 5D, it's more seeing what's actually occurring and not actually being emotionally charged by it. And I don't mean feeling the emotions and deciding to shut them off. No. You come from a high frequency place where those emotions don't actually exist any longer. You still see the same situation. You just don't have the emotional trigger that's attached to that situation. It becomes a very different space. And I would like to say that it's just a choice, but there's work involved. You get to really be intentional about how you live your life and work towards a multi-dimensional existence. Because it's not a space where you can just go on, off. You can turn it on and turn it off at the moment's notice. It's a whole existence, right? And if you can imagine looking at some of the scenarios that we have in our world right now, like people in war, and how those situations are so empty and purposeless from the space that we stand, and how angry we can get that that's actually occurring because it's our family members that are there, right? And they're the ones that are dying for what? Something that we're never going to actually get to see in this reality right now. And is it for even that at all? Do we even know what they're up against while they're in a war? So our emotional responses to that are a part of that existence, right? If we live from a different space, we would see that that isn't actually what's solving the world's problems. We, humans, standing together are what solves the problems of the world, not sending humans to battle down and fight for something, because that never resolves anything. Not even in a small way. I mean, when you look at your family, when you're brother and sister, when you're young and you're battling it out, do you ever really win? No. Somebody always ends up getting hurt. And yeah, maybe you won the toy in the moment, but somebody always ends up getting hurt. And that's not the win-win situation that a 5D multidimensional experience looks like. So it's a big space to talk about. It's my absolute opinion. I'm not, I don't have any degrees in what this looks like, although I do have the energetic perception of a multidimensional human in my existence. And that came from doing a lot of spiritual work that caused it, which I absolutely adore. So as we move into this first break, when we come back, I'll speak into what 5D experience and living could look like. And then after that, we'll move into what 4D is, because 4D to me is the most imperative part. If you're a light worker on the planet, if you're a healer, if you're someone who supports other humans in any capacity, the 4D bridge, that conversation's for you. So I'm Wendy Paquette. This is the Crossroads to Awakening show. We're on the Inspired Choices Network, and we will be right back.
If you could wave a magic wand and have your life be anything you wanted it to be, what would it look like? Professional dancer, CEO of a multi-million-dollar earth-conscious company, a screenwriter with top billing shows, and ultimately have the boldness to move about the world without emotional blocks standing in your way, therefore having the confidence to achieve anything you put your mind to. That's what Wendy Paquette knows is possible for you. The first step is understanding why you don't believe it too, or why you do, and yet haven't created it. Put on your possibility goggles and join Wendy now, because you're at the Crossroads to Awakening.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email becomeahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is Crossroads to Awakening radio show with your host, Wendy Paquette. To participate in the program, call in the U.S. 815-880-8255, Canada 613-800-8736, or Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. Now back to the program.
Hey, welcome back. Man, this conversation feels so big yet so small to me because I live it in my everyday world, and I speak about it often because the clients I work with are in this space where they would like something greater in their reality and they just don't know what it is. And because I was gifted the ability to see and read frequency, I do know what it is. And it's just eliminating the programs that are stuck in your brain, those that you've picked up. They could be multi-generational DNA, energetic coding that came through, as you were born into this human body. And there's energetic coding as well. And it's just a matter of shifting all those frequencies in order to have an experience that's higher vibrational. That's where I live. That is the work that I do with other humans. And it's fascinating and it's fun. And it does get you to the space where you have more peace than you could have ever imagined yourself having, because the mind is a beautiful yet terrible thing if you don't use it the way it was created to be used, that beautiful technology of conscious discovery in there. So let's speak into working in the 5D nature right now. So 5D, I'm just going to speak into this a little bit. We're going to go into 4D because the topic of our show is literally about 4D living. It's the bridge of living in 4D. So let's talk about 5D, and then we'll spend the rest of the time talking about what 4D actually is and how you can see yourself clearer in that space. So 5D, so amazing. Multi-dimensional living, otherworldly experiences occur, understanding of things greater than you could have ever possibly imagined start dropping in, like elements of knowledge, of higher knowledge that you didn't learn about in school and that you didn't read about in a book, dropping into your knowing, your higher intelligence, your understanding of what's actually happening in the world. And the knowing that you have access to that comes out when you're having a conversation with someone and they're asking pertinent questions, and suddenly you have the answers. It makes sense, and you're almost dumbfounded at yourself realizing that you actually know what you're talking about, and not because you learned it somewhere. It's this internal infinite knowing, that higher intelligence that lives inside you, and rightfully so, has always been there and will always be there. So 5D is the multi-dimensional space of understanding. It's the space where when you're facing some type of a problem, there is multi answers, right? things that you never even perceived happening before, and the ability to choose something different, choose something that you wouldn't normally choose in that moment, something that will create an experience and a result outside of your regular everyday living, right? Being able to see maybe the people that it will affect, the situations that it would create afterwards, and how you will respond walking through that problem with a solution in your hand that will change other people's lives at the same time as it changes yours. So it becomes more of a win-win-win situation for everyone. The multidimensional space actually gives you access to multidimensional beings. Beings that don't actually live on this planet, or if they do, in a body like yours or someone else's, and they're having a human experience as a multidimensional being on a high frequency, and they're here to support other humans in this reality. They're here to create the world that we're after, a greener space, create a planet that's healthy and alive and growing, not being destroyed by some of the things that we're choosing in our choices on our everyday living. So that exists, but as a person seeking 5D experience, you'll start seeing it and leaning into it and acknowledging it and then making choices from that high dimensional space. Now, it's not an easy topic to talk about because it's so otherworldly. I'm in this show not willing to go to how otherworldly it is because I'd like to speak about the 4D reality. So what 4D reality is, and this is for all of you beautiful humans out there who are classifying themselves as light workers or healers or, I don't even know. I don't even want to categorize. Like those who are shamans, those who work in like meditational spaces, even those who work in yogic spaces who are going into meditation and working with the body, and those who are working with the breath. Those of you who are working in the space where you're serving and supporting other humans to become more deeply connected to themselves and to the higher dimensions of beingness. You're living in the space where you're taking someone who is living in full 3D and you're showing them an aspect of themselves that they've never experienced before, and you're holding them there, which causes some type of healing. You are then working in and living in the space of 4D. You know that there's this pure space out there where peace is experienced and higher dimensional realities are experienced, which is 5D. You also know that some people are really stuck, right? And they're really, really stuck, whether it's body, mind, spirit, abundance, wherever that is. They're in 3D. Your job, whatever your job, your chosen, profession is, where you're supporting other humans, is to bridge the gap. You're bridging the people that are stuck. They're just finally awakening to there's something other than a black and white world out there, and bringing them into the space where they can actually see something greater. That's a 4D space. Now, I'm not saying you're bringing them into 4D. I'm saying you live there. You live on the bridge. You have 1 foot in 5D, 1 foot in 3D, and you live in 4D, and you function and work from this space where you're supporting other humans get from one side to the other. Now, the downfall of living in that space is sometimes you get sucked into the 3D world for so long that you've forgotten what it's like to feel peaceful and joyful all the time, where you can create your own healings and you can create healings for others and you can see joy in the world and you can be responsible for absolutely everything, the creation that this reality is for you. And sometimes you can't remember. You get stuck in the emotions of 3D and you start spiraling down into the victim space of impossibility, of this space of, I'm never going to get out of this. I don't know where I'm going to go. The world sucks. I don't like what people are doing to each other. And you get stuck in that mental space and almost a mental beat-up space of 3D, of maybe even victimhood to your reality. Now, there is hope. And I know there really, in the big scheme of things, there is no hope anywhere. There's only choice and responsibility. But 4D is where you live. And you get to own the knowing and the understanding that 4D is a reality. It's a reality where you can see both sides. You don't fully live in 5D and you don't fully live in 3D. You live on the bridge to possibilities because see them, and you're at your greatest when you're serving others and you're supporting them and getting from one space to the other, right? Who can hear me? If you could raise your hand and scream and let me hear you, I know that there would be a lot of you going, oh my gosh, that's me. That's me in my reality. I actually do that. I do that every day, right? So you find your happiest self when you're supporting others or serving others in the space of them seeing themselves just a little clearer than they did before they got to you. That's 4D reality, my friends. Knowing that there's something multidimensional about you and about this reality, and knowing that there's still 3D living. And both very frustrating at some points because you can't understand why you're not fully living in it. And so let me tell you the secret to that. You can't even live in 4D without working in both spheres, right? That's why it's the bridge. Imagine 1 foot in 3D, 1 foot in 5, right? And you're supporting those in 3D to understand 5D better. And you're not saying those words out loud. You're healing. You're doing healing work. You're doing the work with them. You're being the light, right? But you can't speak to someone in 3D from a 5D space. They can't hear you. They just can't hear you. The language is different. The frequency is different. The experience is different. So you basically transform yourself to stand in 3D to speak the 3D language. Am I landing with you all? Are you seeing why it's so difficult some days in order to pull yourself back in the space of neutrality? Because 4D is that space. 4D is a space of neutrality where not everything feels amazing and not everything feels really crappy. It just feels like you're there. And I'll tell you, when you start staring at 5D, you start getting frustrated to the fact that you just want to live in 5D all the time. And why not? Why would you not want to? Everyone, if they knew the experience of feeling 100% peaceful, love, and all those things in 5D all the time because you could see life from a different reality, from a different frequency, why wouldn't you? But you didn't come here for that, right? You came back here, not back, you came here in this body, in this reality, to be called to serve others in the way that you do as the bridge master, right? From 3D to a very beautiful, higher frequency existence. And standing on the 4D bridge is the only way that can be done, right? You got to step into 3D to meet people where they're at, speak their language so that they can hear you and choose something greater for themselves, while all the while knowing that 5D is right there in front of you. So it's not an easy space. And you get to be commended and acknowledged for what you are creating in the world because you are making a difference. Somebody had to come back and support others. I don't know about you, but most of my life, and I'm 49, most of my life understanding spirituality like I do now is everyone talking about, oh, the light workers. The light workers came to, shine light on the dark and show people the way and be the way showers and all of that stuff. And that's great. And it never occurred to me that we'd be standing on the bridge of 4D, having to dip our toes into 3D to speak that language in order to support others, and forget that that's what we were doing. Because it's the forgetting that that's what we're doing that causes us to buy into that reality. We're then rebuying it, right? We're like, oh, this sucks, I'm miserable. Yeah, well, you're spending a little bit too much time in 3D. And that's where I feel being the source of your own higher dimensional experience is so imperative. Remind yourself the joy and the bliss of being you and the love that you be, and surround yourself with those people so that you can be reminded just by looking into their eyes or by having a conversation with them why you're here and that this is the space you get to live in, and your work on this planet in this body matters and it means something and it's working because the frequency and the resonance of this planet is raising, and you get to own a piece of that, right? You get to own that because you're doing the work. So as we go into our next break, we will talk more into your role on this planet, what it looks like, how you can shift probably more often into a 5D experience and keep working on yourself in that space, yet still dip your toes into 3D to serve those other, because I can imagine that you're feeling frustrated. And there is also a varying scale on your level of frustration. We'll speak into that because there might be something in the next level for you. So let's talk about that when we come back. So, that's so much, right? 4D is a pretty crazy place, and I've learned to absolutely adore it based on my understanding of what it actually is and strengthen the bridge, right? That's what I've come to in this moment. So as we come through this next break, let's take a nice deep breath and keep breathing and breathe in the peace and love that's possible, and pull yourself into a 5D experience while you're listening to me if that's what you're up to. And I am in complete gratitude for you. So we on Crossroads to Awakening show will be right back.
If you could wave a magic wand and have your life be anything you wanted it to be, what would it look like? Professional dancer, CEO of a multi-million-dollar earth-conscious company, a screenwriter with top billing shows, and ultimately have the boldness to move about the world without emotional blocks standing in your way, therefore having the confidence to achieve anything you put your mind to. That's what Wendy Paquette knows is possible for you. The first step is understanding why you don't believe it too, or why you do, and yet haven't created it. Put on your possibility goggles and join Wendy now, because you're at the Crossroads to Awakening. This is Crossroads to Awakening radio show with your host, Wendy Paquette. To participate in the program, call in the U.S. 815-880-8255, Canada 613-800-8736, or Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. Now back to the program.
Okay, welcome back. I hope you kept breathing, because really, it's truly the only way you're going to stay alive on this planet. I'm sure you realize that breathing is it. I mean, you can not eat for a long time and not drink for maybe less time, but not breathing doesn't quite work for this beautiful body that you live in. So, where do you go next? I was talking about right before the break, what is actually happening when you're living on this 4D bridge and you're supporting others that are in 3D to actualize and raise their frequency so that they can see that there's more to this reality than what they've been seeing thus far. And that's all fine and good while you enjoy doing that and you're excited about your mission. But what happens if you're tired of that mission now? You're feeling more frustrated than excited, and you're feeling more weighed down and dragged down than inspired by doing the work that you've been up to. So I'd like to speak into that a little bit, because there is that level of understanding about your mission that has been raised, so to speak. The frequency of you has been raised. Those you've served have been raised, the frequencies, that is. And perhaps your job is shifting, right? Your mission is shifting on this planet. What if it looks a little more like 5D, closer to 5D on that bridge than it does leaning into 3D and pulling people up or bringing people forward, calling them forward? What if it's now spending time on the 4D bridge and being the bridge between 4D and 5D, right? What if you could actually be that person who, and this looks a lot like what I've been noticing, it looks a lot like what your actual health looks like, your health. Because your body, the vessel that you live in as an energetic being, a spiritual being, is living in this reality in its own frequency, right? It's encompassed with you, because we all are one. It's a holographic reality, and what you choose to put into your body and how you choose to treat your body has a result. So what if you were able to raise your frequency by being mindful and intentional about raising the frequency of the body that you live in, so that you could teach others what that feels like, what that experience is like? So what I can like this too is I'm a total book nerd. I read all the time. It's crazy. My husband thinks that it's an obsession, but it's this eternal desire to thrive and learn as I'm living here on this planet. It's a beautiful thing. And what I know is when I'm growing myself and my practice, my spiritual practice, and my evolutionary energetic being, other things pop in to show me what's next. Because it's one thing to know if you're living in 4D, serving those who are living kind of still in 3D and pulling them forward, bringing them forward, showing them the way. It's another for you to not actually lift yourself into a new frequency headed towards 5D with your body, because it gets to be in alignment with all of your integrity. So imagine what that would look like. Okay, so imagine in a day what you're feeding that beautiful high vibe vessel that you live in. Right? When you look at what you've had for breakfast, or not had for that matter, or lunch or dinner or snacks or what have you, or what exercise you have invited oxygen and water into in your everyday living, and maybe the meditation that you've done, the quiet time that you've given yourself, maybe being out in nature connecting with the earth. What are you choosing that's still a 3D blind spot? Right? Because if you want to pop yourself up in some high frequency and you're on 4D already, and you're serving those who are on 3D and they are wanting more for their life, and you're that beautiful way shower that shows it to them, how do you get to the next level? Right? How do you move like further into your higher frequency experience? You feel sort of like you're stuck when you get frustrated, right? It's really, really a sticky spot to be in, because you're wondering, why the hell am I doing this? It turns into more of a victim conversation in your head. Why am I doing this? This isn't fun. This isn't working anymore, right? It's not that it's not fun and it's not working. It's that your call to up-level your frequency is present, and your reality is showing it to you by how you're feeling. Again, run by emotions, which is why it's not 5D. It's more in the 3.5D, right, onto 4D. So what could that look like? Well, you get to start leaning in. For me, what it looked like was leaning into intermittent fasting, right? Seeing what my mind actually shows me when I'm willing to restrict my eating, my diet, my, feeding this beautiful vessel in blocks of hours, and what I'm actually feeding it, and why I'm feeding it what I'm feeding it, right? When have you ever done that? Taken the time to actually acknowledge the frequency of the products that you put into or onto your body, your vessel. It has everything to do with the frequency that you're at. I'll tell you that now. If you don't believe me, test it out. You want to see yourself get more energy? Track everything that you're eating in a day. And when I mean everything, I mean everything. From the second that you wake up, everything that you put in your mouth and you put into your face at all or onto your skin, including the type of water that's coming out of your shower onto your skin as well, you will see the lower frequency things that you're feeding your body, which contributes to your frequency as a whole. That is a next level thing all in itself. You have no idea, unless you've dove into that, what that experience could actually look like. That's just one aspect. What if you leaned into a regular meditation, committed connection to source, otherworldly or multi-dimensional beings, guides, and higher intelligence? What if you committed to that on a regular basis, right? So many up-levelings occur just by loving you in that way that you won't even be able to handle yourself, and you'll see your whole reality differently. You'll see how your work impacts the world and what it actually creates, and you'll look at, what do you really want? What world would you like to live in? What does that look like? How are you a part of it? And what are you doing right now to contribute to it? And that's a whole 4D to moving on to 5D reality, right? Because it's not like you snap your fingers and just jump in. I mean, that'd be great. We'd all do it, right? But what occurs in this beautiful space we live in, energetically and scientifically, is a natural evolution. You can slow down the evolutionary existence that you have by not choosing to do anything at all. You'll just slowly age and eventually die, right? Slowly age. I mean, maybe you'll be affected by your emotions, and that'll pull your frequencies lower. But you could choose that. That is the beautiful existence of human free will. You chose that when you came here. Like, how brilliant. And living on the 4D bridge is going to give you so much greater experience in your reality, because you're on purpose now. So now you know You're living a 4D experience on the bridge on purpose. Who do I get to be? What do I get to do? And what does my reality look like? And let me tell you, if you want to know what manifestation looks like from this space, just test it out. You think magic looks good when you accidentally manifest something on purpose that it took you like forever and ever to think about and detail in your mind? You try acknowledging living on the 4D bridge. What goes into your body? Time spent connecting with source and with, multi-dimensional experiences. You want to see manifestation. You have no idea until you've attempted that stuff. So my invitation to you is to dive into the conversation just in your head. Where are you living? Where are you at? What are you creating? And why? Why are you creating it? What is it gifting to you? What are the prices that you're paying by doing what you're doing and by maybe not choosing the level that you could be working, living, and experiencing right now? And there's so much more. 4D once you're standing on the 4D bridge, you can breathe. You can breathe and know that you're there, that you can now acknowledge your existence and this reality and why you came here. The word light worker, way shower, way sayer, all those things, that can mean so much more when you're standing on the bridge, because there's a lot of humans that are standing on that bridge with you, that 4D beautiful bridge. And they're all linking arms with you, knowing that this is all where we're at. We're doing this together. No one's alone. You're not the only one. And as we link arms together, the world shifts in our favor. What a beautiful space to live, right? So my invitation to you is spend that time with yourself. Start asking yourself some questions. Better yet, send me an email. Go to Wendy at wendypaquette.com, or go to wendypaquette.com and go into the contact page and send me a message and say, hey, I would like to, get into the space of understanding where I'm at in 4D and what I really want, and I'll send you some questions. And we'll walk through this together, where those questions will evoke what's really going on with you and why, and what it is that you really truly want, and that will be the indicator on what's next for you. What's next? And we'll get down to it. I'm here to support and serve just like you. The difference is I spend a lot more time bridging myself from the higher ends of 4D to 5D than anywhere else. And it is a beautiful space to live. And I couldn't identify it or articulate it before until the words were given to me and the vision of what's actually happening on this planet came to face me. And so this space is 100% where I get to play with you. And you're not alone. I'm standing right here, and I'm willing to have that conversation with you. I am a holographic mind reprogrammer, which means that I can totally stand in this space and read your frequency and see what programs are stuck in your mind that don't actually serve you in this reality that you're in, and we can transmute them, which means that your entire reality, the one that you're living right now, this existence, all the patterns that are in the programs that aren't serving you can be transmuted to source energy and expressed as you moving forward, which touches everything in your world. And so because of that, your life can change instantaneously. If you don't know where you're at, we can find a way. There's many ways that you can work with me, whether it's one-on-one or jump into the community where we can do group sessions together with like-minded individuals. That's an opportunity as well. But don't just sit on the sidelines and be curious and frustrated that you don't know where you're at. Find me. Come ask me questions. There's beautiful humans in the community. If you jump into the community, and they can answer questions just the same. They've been here with me for a long time. They've talked about all this stuff with me, and they found their way as well. And some of the stuff they don't know, but I'm certainly here to support, and 100% is why I'm here on this planet. So soon we're moving into our last break, and this is the space of possibility. This is your crossroads to awakening. That's why the show is called what it is, so that you can see that crossroads is a beautiful gift that you give yourself in order to know where you're headed. Because if you don't know where you're headed, how will you ever know that you've gotten there? It could be the most frustrating space you've ever lived in, and honestly, it's not a space that I would say is your the best place for you to play in for the most joy that you can experience while in this vessel on this planet. So let's dive into how you can experience yourself greater. Maybe we'll set it up so that you can ask these questions, right? Send me an email and I'll let you know what questions you get to ask yourself in order to identify where you're at. Maybe you're living in all 3D and you didn't even realize it, right? Maybe this is your first awakening to the possibility that you actually live in 4D and didn't even know it. Honestly, it's an incredible space of understanding yourself better in this reality. So I see Jen prompting me in here so we can go to a break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about you and what's possible for you and where you can go next. You're not alone, and I'm going to make sure you know that. So you're listening to the Crossroads to Awakening on purpose in this moment in order to serve you in the way that you get to be served. So we'll talk to you right after this break.
If you could wave a magic wand and have your life be anything you wanted it to be, what would it look like? Professional dancer, CEO of a multi-million-dollar earth-conscious company, a screenwriter with top billing shows, and ultimately have the boldness to move about the world without emotional blocks standing in your way, therefore having the confidence to achieve anything you put your mind to. That's what Wendy Paquette knows is possible for you. The first step is understanding why you don't believe it too, or why you do, and yet haven't created it. Put on your possibility goggles and join Wendy now, because you're at the Crossroads to Awakening. This is Crossroads to Awakening radio show with your host, Wendy Paquette. To participate in the program, call in the U.S. 815-880-8255, Canada 613-800-8736, or Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. Now back to the program.
Hello, and welcome back to this final few moments of the Crossroads to Awakening show. I'm Wendy Paquette, and I'm your guided host all this journey that we're having together. And I just would love to speak into what's possible for you in this space, because the coolest thing on the planet is if you were listening to this and you got the realization, like you were called to this show to listen to this specific one, to realize that it's you that I'm speaking to. It's you that has been living in this space of knowing there's all these beautiful possibilities and knowing that you can change the world and yourself and your space and step into something greater and you can serve others. And it was 4D that you were standing on in this beautiful, as I call it, 4D bridge all along. You're not living in the 3D and you're not experiencing fully the 5D, but you know it's there and you're getting glimpses of it and you've dipped your toes into it. But the 3D is where you work. And that creates the most frustrating space when you know that 3D feels frustrating and there's a lot of emotions and anger and things that go on there. And if you spend too much time there, imagine how easy it would be for your whole being to calibrate to 3D if that's all you did was spend all of your time there, without actually replenishing, refueling, and recalibrating yourself. You'd easily fall into the space of emotions and frustration. And, you know, sometimes we just want to give up on this reality and think, screw it. Like, this just so isn't worth it. It's so much work. Why would we come here to not have fun? And that's the space where I come in. That's where you're realizing that this 4D bridge that you actually stand on is the most beautiful rainbow bridge possible. It is the place where you can look and know that you're playing in the 3D and you're supporting and serving everyone from that space and calling them all forward. And you can look at 5D and know that there is so much greater of an experience that you get to have. You can, on purpose, experience higher frequencies when you acknowledge yourself for who you are, where you stand, who you serve and why, and deliberately create experiences for yourself that are in higher frequency experiences or higher dimensional living. And that's what I was saying earlier about tracking the stuff that you're eating. Like, honestly, if you want to see some completely low frequencies, dive deep into the processed foods and things that don't really serve anyone on the planet. They were created in a time that there was war and they needed to create more from less. Nowadays, you can have a beautiful garden outside in the summer months or the spring, summer, and fall months, or you can source some beautiful local veggies and serve yourself some beautifully blessed organic meat, right? Whatever that looks like. On the other side, you can actually do intentional meditations, connecting to multidimensional beings and higher knowledge and higher intelligence, and you can have relationships in your reality that are actually created from the space of love and connection and higher frequency with people who speak the same language. That is the space that 4D bridge is for you. It's this beautiful rainbow bridge of possibility. And sometimes just acknowledging that that's where you've been standing all along is the biggest freedom you could ever give yourself. Because now you'll recognize when you spend too much time in 3D. You'll be frustrated, angry, you'll dip into all those emotions, and you'll be there for far too long. And the second that you start getting into those and wondering what the hell you're doing here, pop out. Literally, close your eyes and stand on the bridge. Imagine it. Sparkly, rainbow-like, whatever color you'd want to look at it. And acknowledge that that's where you're standing and that's where you play. And you're a beautiful being, creating beautiful things on this planet on purpose because you're choosing so. And you get to lean into the opposite side as well. And I say the opposite, but I mean the other side of 5D, where it's a multi-dimensional experience. And if you're looking at like the cities, the gurus, the people that are sitting in those spaces that we call deities or gods or otherworldlies, that's where they live beyond that. They're looking at 5D and, to them it's like so close to 3D, near same thing, except for it's not. To them, they could be living anywhere, who knows how many dimensions they live. I think one meditation I did where I did some channeling, there was a 17th dimensional being that showed up, like 17th dimension. Can you imagine? We're talking 3, 4, and 5. The 17th dimensional being didn't even have kind of an outline. It was more like just energy inside of energy. It was pretty fascinating to experience in one of my deep state channeling meditations. So my invitation is this, in the last couple minutes of the show. Don't stand there alone because you're not. That's the choice, right? Thinking you're alone and you're going this alone and it sucks, that's your choice. Receiving support, friendship, connection, and possibility, that's also a choice. And you're going to find so much joy and so much connection with other beings on the planet who I know are out there doing the same thing and thinking the same things. And then you have me with a full invitation to come connect with me and play in the space of complete possibility with someone who can see and read frequencies and transmute them. Most fun thing. So find me at wendypaquette.com. Come play with me. Let's create the space, this world that you'd like to live in. So, multi-dimensional living is amazing. Living on the 4D bridge is beautiful once you realize that you're there and you can acknowledge yourself for that possibility and that transformation that you be. And the work that you're doing, it matters. It matters. You matter. Your space in this reality, you're here taking up space whether you like it or not, especially while you're in a body, and especially if you have other humans around you and you serve and support others. There is no other way but to be on purpose and but to be here now. So moving into next week's show, who knows what's going to show up. Always something fun, always something multidimensional, and never something boring, that's for sure. My reality was created from that space. So from here until the end of time, I'm sending you so much love and so many blessings and so much rainbow, bright, sparkly 4D bridge acknowledgement. Because welcome to the space where all things are possible because you're in it. So much love to you. We'll see you on the other side of whatever that looks like, and it could be the 4D bridge. Mwah. We'll see you next week. That's for sure.
Thank you for choosing to listen to the Crossroads to Awakening radio show. Wendy Paquette will return next Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1 p.m. Central, 12 p.m. Mountain, and 11 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We look forward to you joining us again. Until then, enjoy your journey and we'll meet you at the crossroads.